Hi everybody, Jeremy here from Visual Studio, and today I'm going to share with you how to use our map pack so you can get the most out of it. So if you're ready, let's check it out. Alright, so you can buy the map pack on our website. I will put a link in the description below. Once you bought the pack, you will get this zip file. Just double click on it to unzip it. It will give you this folder. In the folder, you have a couple of things. You have the license, the instructions, the TRFX file, and the fonts. Please make sure to install all the font, otherwise the title will not work, because Davinci will not know what font to substitute with if it's not installed on your computer. So select everything, just double click on it to start the installation process, and then you can proceed to double click on the TRFX file. It will just prompt open this window asking you if you want to install the TRFX. Right now I have the option to overwrite it because it's already installed, but for you, you will just have to click installed. Then once in Davinci Resolve, you can go over to Effect, Titles, Video Editor Studio, and then here by scrolling down to Map Pack, you will be able to see a bunch of categories. You'll have some background, some flags, some icons, some infographics, some lines, the maps themselves, and the pointers, the typography. And if you scroll down to Effect, Video Editor Studio will have also added some 3D map effect. Those effects will help you create more movement and make your map more interesting and dynamic. I'll share with you in a second how to use them, but first let's just get on and create our map. So we're gonna start by bringing a background. Here you have a bunch of backgrounds you can choose from. Right now I'm gonna start with a grid background and drag that in our timeline. The first thing I want to do is going to the timeline view option, and here reduce the video track to the minimum to have as much space as possible, and here reduce the audio track space. So I have plenty of space to stack my title on top of each other's. Right now I'm gonna extend my grid a little bit, and here by selecting it in the inspector, we have a couple of options we can choose from. We have the blend that will help us make the background darker or brighter. We can also adjust the size of the background, and we have also control over the edge. So for example, here we could use mirror to extend that title and make the grid square smaller. At any moment, you can just double click on any parameter to reset it to the default. And then here in the background, you can choose the color. So for example, here we could just bring that grid towards green and then adjust here the blend mode to make that show up. So we're gonna just use that green right there. Then once I'm happy with my background, I'm just gonna bring in a map. So here I'm just gonna reduce my media pool, and I'm just gonna go down to map. We have a couple of categories in maps. We have nations, which are basically just a map of countries. And then here we have nations with region. There is not a lot. There is just Australia, Canada, France, Germany, India, United Kingdom, and the USA, because it will be a lot to do it for every country. But please let us know if there is a country that you would like us to add to this. But here, for example, we could just bring the map of the US, and then we can just highlight the region that we want. So for example, here, I could just bring Texas and just overlay Texas right above that map. And we will have the Texas part of the US being overlaid above the US map. So right now, let's just do that with the world map. So I'm just gonna delete that. We're gonna go to world map, scroll all the way down, and here we're gonna bring the world map in. I'm gonna extend that, and here as you can see it's quite big, so we're just gonna reduce the size, bringing the size to 0.2, and then we're just gonna overlay the United States right above it. As you can see right now, there is not a perfect overlap because the size isn't the same. Right now, as you noticed, we've changed the size of the map to 0.2, and the United States is still at 0.35. So we just need to make sure that the size is exactly the same, so they are matching perfectly. We have a couple of options to adjust the look. Here we can change the color. For example, we could switch from red to yellow. We could adjust the shadow, in particular here the drop distance, which could help create more separation between the world map and the country in question, and it can help create a more 3D effect to it. You can then make a few adjustments to the shadow strengths, to the blur, for example, to make those edges a bit softer. Another alternative to make the country pop will be to just use the glow to help give a shine to the country and make it pop a little more so it catches the eye. So here we're just going to increase the gain. And here we go, I'm happy with that. As you might have noticed, now we have lost our grid background. It's because with every map, there is a built-in background. So here, if I go to world map and I go to background, As you can see, if I reduce the opacity, we can now see our grid. By default, the opacity will be at 1, so you have a default background where you can just adjust the color, for example, right there. But if you want to use another background, all you have to do is bring in here the opacity to 0 or to reduce it just slightly to make your background a bit darker. Another alternative is to create vignettes or focus to the map. So here, for example, I'm just going to switch to fully black. Then I'm going to adjust the width and the height. I'm then going to adjust the corner radius. And here we're just going to select invert, and we draw the attention to the map by darkening the edges. You can then soften that and create vignette if you like. So here we're just going to increase the soft edge, and we've created a vignette very easily. As you can see right now, there is no animation in for the map. It's because we wanted to give you the flexibility to add any animation you'd like. To do that, you can simply go to video transition and then select any default transition available in Davinci Resolve. So right now, for example, we're going to use a block glitch, and we're going to drag that right above the United States title. And we're just going to use that transition in to create our animation. And that just bring in right there, the US. So right now I'm just going to go back to map, and I'm going to bring Australia, extend that a little bit. As you remember, here we need to adjust the size to the exact same size as our main map. So here is 0.2. We're just going to increase the glow to make it pop, same as the US. And then here I'm just going to zoom in, select the transition, hold option, and drag that to Australia to have the same animation on Australia as well. Now let's move on to another category, the pointers. So here you have 20 pointers that you can choose from to just indicate a place, a country, or any other information that needs to point at a specific part of the map. Right now, let's start with pointer 11, for example, and drag that in. It's just a circle that could here, for example, allow us to point at Europe. So you have a couple of options right here. You can choose the animation length. So right now the animation is about 0.5 seconds, but if you would like it to be longer, you could select 1 second instead. You could choose to have the animation in or out, on or off. And then here you can choose the style of the animation in and out by choosing the kind of curve that you would like to be applied to that animation. We can then choose the size and position. So here we're just slightly going to increase the size, and then we're just going to reposition that properly on Europe. And then here you have the usual parameter like the general size, position, soft edges, etc. of the circle. Then you have the shadow, you have the glow, and you have, as usual, the background as well. All those titles are pretty much built the same way, so I'll let you just discover that, but there is nothing crazy or novel about them in terms of functionality. Some of them are using loaders. For example, this one, if I'm just bringing it in to point at the US, as you can see by default, it got a US flag. We could just bring that over the US to point at it. But if we wanted to point at another country here, we could just go to image and then load any flag we would like, really. I would suggest going to flagdownload.com. They have all the flag over there that you can just use for your images. Another great alternative for icon, for example, would be PNG repo. That has a lot of different icons that you could use for your compositions. To load your own images, you can just click browse, and then you can just bring in whatever image you like. So for example, here, I'm just gonna bring on that grid, and here I'm gonna increase the size, and I can just adjust the position of that grid within the mask. Again, they are all built in very similar ways, so I'll just let you explore all of them and just play around with it. Another category are flags, which are pre-animated flag that you can use. So here, for example, we could bring in the flag of France, drag that in. We could just reduce the overall size and then just put the position on France. With that flag, you have a couple of options in terms of designs. So here, for example, we have a flag that have a continuous animation, waving, and then here we could just select design 1, which will be just a simple square with the flag in it. You could then choose if you want it to be a circle or a square. So here, if you reduce circle to 0, that will be a square. And if you just increase that to the maximum, that will be a circle. Right now, for the time being, we're just going to select number 2. And here, as you can see, you have plenty of flags to choose from. Again, we've added most major country, but if there is any country that we've missed and that you would like us to add, just please let us know by sending us an email, and we'll do the best we can to come up with an update. Another very interesting category right here is lines. We have a bunch of different lines that you can use. some that are straight, some that have some waves to it, some that have text, some that doesn't. There is really great diversity to it. Let me first show you how they work and what you can do with them, and then let's integrate one to all maps. So here I'm just gonna unzoom a little bit, and we're just gonna bring, for example, this one right there to the timeline. As you can see right here, we have point going from point 1 to point 7. But here the point count is going from 1 to 6. It's because number 1 is counting as 0. So right now we have just a straight line going from point 1 to point 2. If we were to select point count 2, there will be 3 points and 2 lines. So here going from point 1 to point 3, so on and so forth. And you can just choose the number of points that you want by selecting that point count right there. So right now, for example, if we were to just select point count 2 and I think 3 points, we could then just go to line control and here adjust the overall position of each of those points. So I'm going to start here with point 0, which is right there. And then I could just adjust point 2 and point 3. You can then basically displace them wherever you want. There is also an option where you can just here switch to Fusion Overlay, and it will just bring the option directly to pick the point on your viewer and just move them directly on your screen. Like any other title, you then have control over the circle. So here we could just, for example, decrease the size to 0.015. We could change the color and make it red, for example. We could here in the text, adjust the text of each point. The box around it will automatically adapt to the text. So for example, here, if we were to write London, as you can see, the box has adapted to the text. If, for example, here you feel like you don't have enough space between the text and the edge of the box, you could adjust the extend horizontal. So here we could increase that to 12, for example, and here we just already give us more space. But here, so it's more visible, let's go with 25, for example. And as you can see here, we have a lot more space now. They are all linked together, so when you change the style, it will be consistent throughout each point, except for the writing of the text. All right, so now that we saw how it would work, let's just bring one to our current map and see how we can integrate that. So for example, here, if I would like to show flight from LA to Melbourne, I could just bring the wavy line pointer and just bring that in. Then here, as you can see, it's the same principle. You can choose to have a different point, but right now, each of those points doesn't have a clear stop. That will be, for example, the top of a curve right here. So in that case, we don't need much. We just need to have 2. We can just open line control and we can start by positioning here the endpoint on Melbourne. So I'm just going to move that around. Then I'm going to do the same thing here with the point that is supposed to be on LA. So let's just bring that over. And here, as you can see, the second point here at the top of this curve, we're going to adjust it to make the curve in any direction we like. So here, I'm just going to bring it down and bring it more to the left so we have a clean curve. And here we go. I'm just going to decrease the line thickness. So I'm going to go for 0.003. And then here I'm going to go to the start text. We're going to say Los Angeles. And then we're going to go to the end text. And here we're going to write Melbourne. Here I'm just going to move my flag pointer just slightly to the side. Here we go. So we have more space right there. Now let's play it. As you can see, the line now is quite slow, so I would just like to increase the speed of that. So we're going to select 1.5 seconds instead. Here I'm just going to extend all my title that I bring so far, so everything is aligned properly. And now that we have our line, it's the perfect opportunity to just bring in an icon and to show a plane going from Los Angeles to Melbourne. So we're going to go to the icon section, and here I'm just going to bring a plane right above my line. So I'm going to extend that plane right here. We're going to adjust the overall position. So I'm going to drag that right above LA, and we're going to reduce the size. Then here I'm going to adjust the angle so it's aligning with the line, and perfect. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now if we play it, as you can see, the icon has a simple animation in, but it will not automatically reach the destination. We're going to need to keyframe that. To do that, I'm here going to go at the beginning of the icon, and I'm just going to drop a keyframe on the position wherever I want this to start. So here we already have the plane in the right position. And then I'm going to go towards the end. just go a couple frames backwards so I can see my plane still. And here I'm just gonna adjust the position of that plane to arrive on Melbourne. Now, if we were to play it, as you can see, there is two issues. The first one is that the plane is not traveling here on the line, so we can adjust that in a second. And the second thing is that the plane is not pointing toward Melbourne, it's staying in the same direction. So that means we're gonna have to adjust the angle as well and keyframe that. So first, to adjust the plane on the line, what we're gonna do is here going again to select Fusion Overlay, and here it bring up that line. We're simply gonna click wherever on that line to add a point and bring that point right on our line. Then with that point selected, we're gonna hit Shift S on our keyboard, and that's just gonna smooth here those lines so they are matching the curve of our current line. We can then just adjust those handle to make it match what we have. And so now it's appearing to be above the line. If you have a line that is a bit more complex, you can always add multiple points and do the exact same thing. So here I'm gonna bring, for example, a first point, dragging that in, and a second one, and drag that in too. I'm gonna hold Command and then just select those 2 points and hit Shift S to just smooth everything. So here, Shift S, and we can adjust the handle once more. Now we can just keyframe the angle as well. So if we go at the beginning and drop a keyframe on the angle, and then we can go towards the end and we can adjust that angle so it faces Melbourne properly and is aligned with the line. Right now my animation will last quite a fair bit, you know, it's lasting almost 10 seconds, but if you want your plan to last the exact same time as the line, all you have to do is simply to go right above your line right here, then make your cut, and then you can simply do everything we've just done, but just with the timing of the line. Here you can choose from multiple icon, or if you don't have the icon that you like, you can always bring in your own custom icon here and use the loader to just bring any image you like in. Again, I will recommend going to PNG repo to download any icon from there because they have a lot that you could use. Then we also added 2 other text categories, which are Infographic and Typography. So that's just to help you display anything text related on the map as something on the side, for example, or just to display any number that is relevant to the map. Now, pretty straightforward and work like any title you will come across in Davinci, really. As usual, here you can adjust the animation length in second. Here you can adjust the value. You have the size and position. You have the text. Just one little caveat, for example, here with the kilometer, is we're using an expression to do that. So you can choose that value from kilometer to miles or whatever other value you would like. For example, here you could switch it to a percentage. And to do that, you basically just need to change it here in between those 2 quotation marks. So you can put any value in between there and it will be applied. We haven't found a way yet to make it simpler. And to just add it directly here in the text writing, we still need to use an expression to do that. Then to change the value, you can just enter whatever value you want right there. Then all the other parameters are the same: shadow, glow, background, as usual. You have similar stuff here in Infographic to help you just display more information that is relevant to the map. And you could play around to make the color code just match from what is displayed on the map and that infographic. For example, here on our map example, we choose the US as yellow and Australia as red. We could just go to circle and change those values so they are matching what we see on the map. So here, for example, yellow and then red, reduce the size and it displays it to the side right there. Then here, change the text from men, women to Australia and USA. Those are arbitrary value, but you get the point. Now, once you're happy with your map and you want to make it a bit more dynamic, what you could do is select all your titles and then right-clicking on it and creating a new compound clip. Right now, as you can see, it's playing fine, but it's dropping a few frames. So ideally, if you want to be able to play it smoothly and you have other stuff to add within the context of your video, I will recommend to just right click and here select render in place. It will just ask you what format you want to select. So here we're going to stay with QuickTime, Apple ProRes 422, and then we're just going to render that. You're then just going to ask wherever you want to save it. So right now I'm just going to save it to the desktop, for example. And here it's just going to render that media in place. So when you can play it, it will play it as a video clip and not process every single title every time you have to play it, which is going to make it so much easier to get real-time playback. Now, as you can see, when I play it, it's playing at 24 FPS without any issue. Now, to make the map more dynamic, we're just going to go over to Effect and then here, Map, and we can select any of those effects right here to make some movement within the map and make it more interesting. So right now I'm just going to choose something that go diagonally. So I'm just going to select that, drop it here on my video clip. Now by default, it seems to be doing a good job. But if I want to make any adjustment to the position, I can always go to Effect right here. And then we can make some adjustments to the starting point position. So here we are at the starting point, and then I can go to the ending point and make some adjustment there as well. And now we have some more movement. We got also some more basic one, like for example here, a continuous zoom in. We could just drag that in, and then here it will just continuously zoom onto the map. As you may have noticed, those will zoom quite a bit inside your composition. So I will highly suggest that you make those compositions in 4K so you don't have too much quality loss. And that's pretty much it. Hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comment if you have any question. Thank you so much for watching, and you can download a sample of that map in the description below as well. And you can get the full pack available on our website. Thank you very much for your support. I hope you enjoy it, and see you in the next one. Bye. Speed up your workflow and create better videos using the pack available on our website, including titles, transition, and templates built only for Davinci Resolve. Get started today by downloading our free starter pack that contains over 150 elements. Link in the description below or at videoeditorstudio.com.